Hey, this is Eric from Catching Light.
Hey, this is Hemp.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hi, I'm Steve-O.
Hey, this is Drew Hines with Hindsight Imagery.
This is Matt Callahan at Digimatty Photographic Services.
Hey, this is Jason, and welcome to Tales from the Pit. Hello and welcome to Tales from the Pit, the behind the lens access for concerts and photography. Today we have a very special guest. He's a photographer for so many things. He's done so many pieces of work with so many artists all around, from covers to magazine covers to album covers. He's done a ton of workshops. He's got a book out. He's got so many cool things. Jeremy Saffer, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Stoked.
So I'm excited to talk to you. You have so many cool things that I really want to dive into. But first, if you don't mind, to kind of give us a background, how did you get started? And what led you in this direction?
Sure. So I grew up a guitarist. Since I was like 4, I basically wanted to be a rock star. So I grew up playing in bands and metal bands, and I would open for bigger bands like Cannibal Corpse, Meshuggah, stuff like that. And I'd always take pictures of the bands that played after my band. The local promoter, local to me, was a dude named Scott Lee, and he saw me shooting the shows. Just like, why don't you come to all my shows and photograph them all? I'll let you in for free. You give me the photos, you post them, we're good. And he also worked for a bigger company called Mass Concerts. So I started photographing for him, started working for Mass Concerts, which is the Palladium, the Webster, and they promote other shows at like UMass Lowell, Warped Tour, all that kind of stuff. So I started shooting bands live when I was about 16, 17. I became the house photographer for Mass Concerts for Scott Lee, who ran New England Metal and Hardcore Fest, Skate Fest, Rock and Shock, all those different festivals. And I just kind of did it for fun. My whole thing was I was going to Berklee School of Music. I was going to be, some sort of rock star of some sort. I went to Berklee and I hated it. I was absolutely miserable there because I'm a metal dude and it's very much a jazz and blues school. And in music, I can only play what I like to play and like it. If I'm playing blues, I'm going to be miserable. If I'm playing jazz, I'm going to be miserable. And so I got to my second semester and kind of hit a wall with like, this was the trajectory of my life for everything I've known for so long. So I went and talked to Scott Lee, actually, and I was just like, dude, I have no idea what to do. I'm skipping homework to shoot shows. I'm miserable. I just like shooting shows. I don't know what to do. I need to drop out of Berklee because I'm not going to move forward with it. He's like, well, what do you like to do? I'm like, take pictures. He's like, do that. And before that, it never occurred to me that photography could be something I do outside of just for fun. I was like, cool, I'm a fan. I get to go to shows. I get to see bands for free. I get to take pictures. That's what I like to do for fun. But it was never something where I was like, oh, I can make a career of that. So I immediately dove in and started touring with different bands. And I was doing festival tours and knew nothing of photography. I was always shooting on auto. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing it for fun. So I jumped off Ozfest one year and went to the Hallmark Institute of Photography, which is basically a 10-month super intensive program that's like 4 years jammed in 10 months. And it's pretty cool. Like Slayer was my family portrait. Tour buses were pulling up to the school. It was doing photo shoots in the school. So I left the school to jump right back on Ozfest. And from there, I stopped just doing concert photography. And I still do concert photography. I've been doing that throughout, but I started doing more portraiture. So I was doing more, magazine covers, merch stuff, album covers, and then, eventually directing music videos, shooting music videos, stuff like that. So that's pretty much the story of how I went from being a guitarist, putting down the guitar, picking up the camera, and staying in the same music world, which was really cool.
That's pretty, it's pretty interesting. That's a very similar sort of start as me. I was a musician, I'm still am. And that was my gateway into concert photography is I could just put a camera in my gig bag and, I'll come in, do a show and pull the camera out after the show and do the same thing. So yeah, very similar. That's really, really cool. It really I'll say from a musician perspective, it really gives you some insight as to what to think about, how to prepare, what to look for and stuff like that when it comes to photography and being a musician as well. I think that's a really key piece that, some people just probably don't have that experience or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, music theory is so, deep rooted into photography when you're photographing bands live. So, like if you're well versed with, A, B, A, B, like how songs are going to go, you're like, okay, so this is the verse. When the chorus hits, the lights are going to be bigger. The chorus is about to come up because I know how, minor go into major. Boom. Your 4/4 timing. You can count when things are going to hit and you can count the lighting. Okay, it's going red, green, yellow, white. I want to hit it on white, and it's hitting on white on the downbeat of 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Having that kind of musical knowledge is really helpful when you're shooting live for sure. Absolutely. And then also if you're doing like endorsement photos, like guitar photos, drum photos, knowing like, hey, bring your headstock here, bring the pickups closer to your face, grab the drum head, tilt it this way, tilt the ride cymbal this way, knowing all the bits and pieces of what you're working with is also pretty vital. So yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Very cool. Are you still doing music at all, or is that completely out of the picture?
Oh no, it's gone. Like my guitars are collecting dust downstairs, along with like my drum set and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't play anymore.
So we have a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I want to talk about, a lot of the very specific shots you've done and your workshops and your book and stuff like that. But can you kind of break us through like some of those first tours? Like you talked about Ozfest and you talked about opening for some of these local band. Well, at the time when you're getting started, you kind of opening for local stuff. But what was your first road experience like?
My first road experience. Well, the first time I was on the road for like a long period of time was festival stuff. So it was Ozfest. And it was hopping on with a band and like sleeping in the front lounge or back lounge and then shooting all the bands on the second stage and not even shooting the main stage. And it was like Bury Your Dead and Throw Down and stuff like that. And then the next year, my roommate was the drummer of All That Remains. And So Shannon, I jumped on with Shannon and, went with All That Remains and Walls of Jericho and like all of the bands on that tour, like Lacuna Coil, Bleeding Through, A Life Once Lost, like all those bands are bands I do the photos for, like Hatebreed. These are all bands that I've been working with my entire career. So it was just a friend fest. And it was like the perfect tour, Ozfest 06. So it was, every day do you just shoot the bands you're supposed to shoot. You don't shoot like I didn't shoot System of a Down once on that tour, and I probably should have tried, but I was just like, they're not on my itinerary, so I guess I won't. I don't know. But yeah, it was fun. And I toured for another few years with All That Remains, and then did some touring with a band called I Wrestled a Bear Once. And then around 2012 or 2011, around there, Wabo was my last tour because I was really focusing so much more on portrait work than live photography. And touring with a band, I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, like not even financial wise. Like, of course, I'll make more staying home and doing photo shoots for bands. But it's just like when you're shooting the same thing every night, the band has to be something like really, really spectacular. And it's not that Iwabo isn't. They're a great live band. You can always find a different way to shoot them every night. But like, say Alice Cooper, say you're touring with Alice Cooper. That is a show that you can shoot every night and be really excited about. It's not a band on stage playing. It's like a theatrical show. And I think if I ever toured again, it would have to be with a band that's like super theatrical, has a big show, has something really interesting that you can shoot at every part of the stage, any given point. Like in this moment, it's another band I could shoot like every night, never get bored.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I haven't toured in a good 10 years, but it was a fun thing. It's a young man's game for sure.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask is what is that like physically being on the road? I hear a lot of stories about lack of sleep, lack of showers, lack of good food, all that stuff.
So it's definitely different if you're on tour with a specific band or if you're on a festival. When I'm on a festival, I'm shooting all the second stage bands because that's what I'm hired to do, and sometimes main stage bands as well. So you're waking up sometimes before the band, if bands are on, before your band, what bus you're on is up. So you're up first thing, making sure you catch every single band running from one stage to the next stage to the next stage to the next stage, catching every single band. You try to eat when there's a band on that you don't have to cover. So I was eating usually at the last band is when I got to go finally eat, kind of thing. But I don't know, it was fun. Festivals are just awesome because it's just so much friends, so much hanging out. You're in a new city every day in a big theater, it's good times for sure. But when you're with a single tour, you don't have to do as much because you're not covering 12, 15 bands that day. You're covering like 1, 2, 3, 4 bands, and usually you're just there to cover the one band. Whenever I did tour with like All That Remains, Iwabo, I wasn't just a photographer. I was also doing video things, and I was also doing assistant tour manager things, meet and greets, that kind of stuff. So I was running all those things. So I was wearing a couple hats. So it's not that bad. It's definitely fun, but like I probably would stick to portrait work more so than touring nowadays.
Yeah, we've had a few photographers on, and some of them sort of got started sort of in the meet and greet and then moved over to photography or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely wearing multiple hats for some bands, depending on, what stage that band is in their career and stuff like that as well too. I was fortunate enough to shoot All That Remains at 2017 Bangor, right before we lost Oli. What was the show? The big show in Bangor. I'm just spacing out. Rise Above Fest, sorry, in 2017. Yep. And I got to meet him, right? He was in the hotel the next morning getting coffee. And I was like, hey, dude, that was awesome, and all that stuff. And then, what was it? 6 months later, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. That must have been pretty hard. I mean, I'm assuming you're really good friends with those guys.
Ollie grew up on the same street as me. He was my guitar teacher from age 12 to about like 18 till I went to Berkeley. And actually, I got the All That Remains 3-song demo at a Kitty and Nile show where Phil was giving it out, trying to get band members. And I showed it to Ollie. Ollie tried out for the band and got in the band.
No way.
Because Ollie was my guitar teacher at the time. I think a few people probably showed it to him, but yeah. And then he joined the band. It's such a bummer. He was the nicest, tall, goofy wizard dude, but I saw him once a week for most of my life until I went to Berkeley. And then, out of weird coincidence, I ended up touring with him for 6 years as well. So he's kind of like a big brother. Like all of those concerts I went to that were 18 plus, he told Scott Lee I was his little brother so I could get into him. So that's how I got to see Merciful Fate. That's how I got to see all these bands when I was younger. That's how I got to see Hellraiser 4 in theaters. He took me, this is my little brother, So it's kind of like you lose a big brother, and it's such a bummer. And, hopefully justice is served there eventually.
Yeah. I guess for those that don't know, Ollie was the lead guitar player for All That Remains and died. I don't know. I hear the stories about he died tragically in his backyard in the water. But there's a lot of suspicion of other things, foul play or something like that. I don't know the details on that stuff, but unfortunately, he was an excellent guitar player. And he was a super cool guy. I only met him for 2 minutes, but he was super, super cool guy. But yeah, very sad. So you start doing portraits and stuff like that. Are you just like, what triggers you to say, like, I'm tired of being on the road? Is it like there's a lot of opportunities? There's a lot of bands coming to you for that? Or is it just like, I'm just going to risk it and see? What's your transition from that touring to your own stuff?
From the last All That Remains tour I did to the I Wrestled a Bear Once tour I did, I want to say there was probably 2 years. And in that time, I became the head photographer for Outburn magazine. I was working with Revolver, Decibel, all these other magazines, and I was doing a lot of photo shoots. So at the time, the last tour I did with Iwabo, I took my lighting with me and I did like 20 photo shoots of them on that tour. So I'd find a cool spot and we would do a photo shoot because that was kind of my thing. And going back to touring then was kind of doing something different than what I was doing the past few years. I was definitely doing mostly portraiture at the time I did that last tour.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So I definitely it was kind of like a balance where like concerts, portraiture, and then it slowly did this.
Yep.
And then, there'll be sometimes I go to a show, do a photo shoot, and leave before the show starts. Sometimes I don't even stay and stick around and shoot the show. Sometimes I'm just like, cool, photo shoot's done. I'll see you. And, I'm never going to do that again after COVID.
Right. Yeah.
Never going to miss another show ever again.
Yeah, no kidding. Definitely. So, and I think, I've read in your bio that a lot of these shoots you're doing them in, you have no idea what you have available for setup, for environment, for space, for time, any of that stuff. You want to talk about it?
Sure. I mean, every photo shoot's a different animal. Sometimes things are planned out. You know exactly where you're shooting, how much time you have, what you're doing, and all that.
So
But the majority of the time.
Can I stop you real quick? Are you, for those shoots, so the band hires you beforehand to come in, or is it all agreed upon the day, or how does that work to get all that started?
So it's always different. Sometimes I'm hired specifically from the band, such as like in this moment, I'm shooting for in this moment. But a lot of times I'm shooting for a magazine like Outburn, Metal Hammer, whatever else. And I'm going in and doing a photo shoot for commercial, editorial, whatever different reasons. So sometimes I'll shoot Nita for Nita. Most of the time I shoot Nita, it's for Nita. And then every now and again, I'll shoot her for a magazine. So it'll be an editor hitting you up saying, hey, we need you to go do a photo shoot with this band. It's for a feature. This is what we need. Go do your thing. And they won't really give you, any sort of details in terms of what they need, aside from blanket, like, get some verticals, get some horizontals, get a couple different changes, different types of lighting, and you're good. They trust you to do your thing at this point, and then other times, like, we'll say like the Metal Hammer cover where there's a specific shot of Cardinal Copia holding the decapitated head of Papa Emeritus III while Papa Niles behind him, pointing, looking all evil, where I literally get a drawing of it, like sketch figure drawing of that cover. This is what we want. This is how you're shooting it. We want you to do your lighting for this shot that you used in this shot for that cover. And this is how we want it to look. And then there's other times where you're doing those composite covers, like the one I did with, Dave Mustaine, Scott Ian, Corey Taylor, Randy from Lamb of God, Avatar, the one that the 300 cover that had everyone, Papa, John Davis. And it's like, okay, here's the lighting we need you to do. And we need you to shoot these artists in this state, then fly here and shoot the artist in this state, then fly here, shoot the artist in this state, then drive here and shoot the artist in this state. And it's all going on a single cover looking like a single shot. So there's lots of times you have to do that. So it's always different,
That's tricky with stuff like that.
Yeah, because you never know what you're going into. Like Chicago, this was the Metal Hammer 300 cover. I was flying into Chicago open air to do the majority of the cover because most of the bands were there. And I'm shooting in a little white tent, so everything's reflective.
Oh, God.
Little white tent. And I have my light set up exactly as is. Then for John Davis, I had to go into another area and bring it to a completely different stage to do his shot. And I just brought my background, shot him, easy. And then I had to drive to Connecticut to shoot Papa Emeritus for the Ghost shot. And then someone in Germany saw my shot, saw the lighting, saw the setup shots that I sent them, and shot Elisa and Venom Prison for that cover as well.
Do we have examples of this stuff so that people can see what you're... Because it's
absolutely
how you
I'll post them. They're on his website. You've got so many covers. Let's talk about a few, but I'll actually post them as we're talking about them. They're amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that cover was insane.
While you're talking on Instagram, I'm just like amazed.
Thank you so much.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that cover was the big one. That was a giant undertaking, and it was cool because I got that job because of my relationship with bands, knowing that they've worked with me a whole bunch. And then the editor from Metal Hammer, who's they're an England-based magazine. He flew over for the shoot, so extra nerve wracking. But I get a text message, "Hey, John Davis won't do the shoot. The tour manager's here. Come over to the tent now." I walk over to the tent. The tour manager is this dude Sebastian, who I know pretty well. He's amazing director, amazing dude. He does films. He did a Mind Over Matter film, which is, check it out if you get a chance. I think it's on Amazon and it's free.
It's called Matter.
Yeah, it's called Mind Over Matter, and it's about a guitarist named Brendan Mendenhall who has cerebral palsy, and his hand was stuck this way. And then he slowly learned how to play guitar and taught himself how to play guitar with help from Korn. And he's now in a band called the Mendenhall Experiment, which is amazing. Definitely check it out. Check out the documentary Mind Over Matter. Korn's tour manager, Sebastian, did it, and it's absolutely incredible.
Awesome.
But anyways, I roll up to the tent. Sebastian turns around and goes, "Oh, Jeremy's shooting it? We got it. Yeah, that's fine. We could do it." So I set up in this office. John Davis is pacing back and forth. "I don't want to do photo shoots on days of shows. I don't want to do this. Nope, I don't. I'm not doing this photo shoot." He peeks his head in. "Oh, it's Saffer? Yeah, this is fine. We'll do it." And having that happen in front of my editor is just like, thank you. Thank you for making me look good in front of my editor.
No
and
kidding.
that happened with Randy as well. Randy walked by, and he's a photographer. Randy from Lamb of God. He also shoots Leica as well, and he is the best dude ever. So he comes in. Him and Corey are being escorted to the Blackcraft cult area to do a video interview. So it's them, bodyguards, their management, and their publicists from the UK and US. So giant entourage. They walk by our set because it's us, Blackcraft, right? So they're walking by us, and Randy goes, "Saffer!" rolls up and starts taking pictures of me. He's like, "Dude, you got to try this lens. It's so sick." And he's taking pictures, and everyone's like, "Randy, we hold on. I got to do some bullshit. I'll be right back." And then Merlin's like, "Dude, he's wearing flip-flops and a hat. Can we get him shoes? It's a full body shot. And, get him to lose the hat." He walks back in, and he's like, Why do you need me to wear shoes and get rid of the hat? Saffer, do you need that? I'm like, "It's going to be a full body shot. It'll look more iconic with your hair down, and with the full body shot, it'll look better with shoes." It's like, "All right, I'm not doing it for any of you except for Saffer." And then management runs to get his shoes and whatnot. And I'm just like, "Oh, thank you for making me look good. Thank you."
Nice.
Unreal. Yeah. Unreal moments.
You must make them feel real comfortable during the shoots. That's why. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think your personality, having that personality makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And just having that longevity. I've known Randy for so long. He wrote the foreword to my book. The intro, sorry. Danny Filth did the foreword. But Randy, when he first got into photography, we would just text each other and nerd, and we still do. We were texting earlier today because we're nerding out about different lenses and different lighting stuff. And, being a photographer, you can definitely connect on photo things and just talk about photography all day, every day, and never be bored because you're always so stoked on something,
Yeah.
But you guys know we got all photographers here.
Yeah. When, so you've done album covers, and you and I were sort of briefly, you were talking with us earlier about the In This Moment and stuff like that. Do bands call you directly for an album cover, or do they take, or just something you shot that bands love so much it becomes an album cover? What happens?
It's never been that. It's never been something I've shot becomes an album cover, except for bootlegs. I've caught a couple bootlegs where I'm like, "Ooh, my Megadeth photo is now the cover of an album," even if it's a bootleg. And it's wildly overpriced. I'm going to buy it because that's kind of cool. But no, sometimes it's the record label. When I was doing Victory album covers, the A Day to Remember album cover with Neil with the bat behind his back, that was the art director hitting me up and saying, "Hey, we got this band. This is the idea. This is what we want you to do," and then just roll with it. And the idea was just having kids dressed up in we go to prep school kind of outfits. And then my idea was bringing in weapons, changing it up, and doing the bat kind of behind the back kind of shot. Same thing with Filthy Habits, which was Farewell to Freeway. And, sometimes they come with the idea and it's directly from the record label, but other times it's directly from the band, such as In This Moment. Anytime I'm working with Maria, it's Maria. Maria runs that. She has her vision in mind. She has the artist in mind that she wants to bring her vision to life, and it happens. And Maria actually edited her last music video herself, which is awesome. So she's really like getting to the point where she can self-perpetuate her own art, which is really, really cool. And I know she's getting a camera. I know she's getting more and more into it. So eventually she won't need me. She'll just do it herself.
She's just so talented, all in her. I mean, her creativity is just off the charts. We had Justin Press on, who he was security for in this moment on probably the last tour, I think it was. And he was telling me just about her vision and her direction is just so specific. She just knows what she wants. And she's so talented. She's just so creative in general. And, you know, for example, I mean, you and I briefly talked about it, but this photo right here, incredible photo. And you took this photo. You want to talk about it?
Sure. I mean, it's a simple one light setup, and it's all about having that big mod, shooting with a 48-inch mod. But basically what happened was I hit her up, or she hit me up, I forget which, and you know, the tour was locally, and they're not always in the same place at the same time, because she lives close to me, whereas the rest of the band is kind of spread out everywhere. So I can work with Maria anytime, but working with the whole band and the Blood Girls and backup dancers only happens when they're on tour, or when they're like, you know, preparing for tour or something like that, and they're all in the same place. So the idea was, okay, let's do a quick photo shoot. We'll just get some group shots, some solos, and we do it every single time they come through. No matter what, we do a photo shoot. So I went up to the Palladium, up to the second stage area upstairs, set up a black background, set up a single light, and we just did a bunch of group shots, a bunch of solos, and her manager was there, and she was just like, oh my God, these are so good. Hey, we should use these in the next album. We should use these as our new promos, you know? And that's how it worked with like the last photo. If you saw the one where she had like the crown on her head, and it was like a composite where two members were looking this way, two members were looking that way. It's like, we just did it. And then it ended up being their main photo for 5 years. And then this will be their main photo for until we shoot again, you know? And it's really cool to have that kind of like, knowing that your photo of them is going to be their photo for this much time until you get a new photo of them to replace your old photo of them, which is really, really cool. And she always has these ideas in mind of like, okay, this is where this is happening, this is where this is happening. And then it's kind of my job to make sure everyone's lit right, everyone's standing where they should be, posing everyone properly, making sure everyone's in line, everyone's symmetrical or wherever they should be, directing them, telling them what to do, because she'll give you the idea, but she's unable to direct everybody while you're, you know, shooting. And it's the same thing with shooting music videos for her. And actually, she's the reason I shoot music videos. I had no intention of doing that at all. So and she was just like, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. It was just like one day where she was like, hey, I'm going to come by the studio. We'll do a bunch of photo shoots and we'll just shoot a quick music video. Cool. I'm like, wait, what? What? She's like, yeah. For the song The Fighter, we just want to shoot a music video. We'll just, you know, to do something simple, easy, and quick. And I'm like, I have been on music video sets as a photographer, as a still photographer. Those are 16-hour days and sometimes 2 16-hour days. What? We're shooting a music video? Whoa, what are we doing? What's the, you know, and she was just like, oh, you'll figure it out, sweetie. You got this. You know, she's the nicest human being on earth, and she has all the confidence in the world in me. And anytime I shoot with her, I always have to learn something new, which is awesome because she always pushes me to learn something new, do better, be better. You know, she's amazing. So we do the photo shoot, and she's like, okay, so let's shoot the video for The Fighter. And we shot that video in 5 takes in less than an hour. The music video for The Fighter was shot in 5 takes, not even 5 full songs, not 5 full takes, but 5 takes together. And that was it. So we shot that video in like, I want to say less than an hour, or about an hour. And it was like a few takes with a ring light, a few takes with 2 lights from the side. That was it. And we put it together and it was done. And then with the As Above, So Below music video, which we did over the pandemic, which was really cool because it was just, you know, that video was just her and I, as was The Fighter. It's just me and her, you know, pretty simple with, you know, my partner was my assistant, her partner was her assistant. And it was just her in her bathtub in her house and just shooting above it and doing all sorts of stuff and learning how to do half speed, quarter speed, double speed, all that kind of stuff that I had no idea how to use. Learning how to use a gimbal, which is the most frustrating thing on earth when you're trying to balance it.
Oh yeah.
So, oh my God, gimbals. But
What, using the
Yeah.
Ronin S or something?
yep, DJI Ronin. That's exactly what I was using. And I actually bought one, so I have it now.
Yep. I do the same thing. But yeah, incredible that the amount that you were able to do that in that short a period and get the quality and the delivering on such a pro level video. In that short, I do videos as well. It's an all day thing. It takes all day to get, and it's incredible that you were able to do that. That's awesome. And the as above so below video is so cool because what is she in? Milk? Is that what she's in, or is that just like a soapy water or something like that?
Almond milk, a lot of almond milk.
A whole tub full. That's an awesome video. You guys did awesome on that. Again, she's got such a great vision.
Yeah, that was all her. I just shot what she told me to,
Yeah, that's so cool. She's so awesome, so talented, so off the charts talent. So cool. Now,
yeah, absolutely.
When you shot the photo that I showed earlier, you got a little bit broken up. Did you shoot that what tour was that you shot that on?
It was the fall tour in 2019.
Oh, so with Motionless in White and DED and New Year's Day. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I shot them on the Halloween show in Portland, Maine that year as well. That was an awesome show.
Yeah,
very cool.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So you mentioned you briefly mentioned your partner, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, she's the one that you've just recently put a bunch of really killer photos out. Is that correct? She has green hair.
Yep. She has the green and purple hair. Her name's Tara. She has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, which is degenerative. So like her connective tissue is slowly deteriorating. Like any given point of the day, her shoulder pops out of the socket and she has to pop it back in. Her hips, same thing. And then beyond that, she has all these other things such as like a heart condition. She has stomach conditions, all sorts of stuff, the poor thing. And she is the greatest human being on earth. So, she can't work because she can't work. So I just wanted to try to raise some money so she can get better like mobility aids because, she has a wheelchair that is so shot. So getting her a better wheelchair that fits her because she's pretty teeny rather than this giant wheelchair that's like super shot would be awesome. Just getting her better stuff and making her life better would be awesome. So we released a bunch of prints and all that's going straight to her. Yeah,
and I will say, first of all, very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. She's a very beautiful lady. And also your lighting on that stuff is amazing as well. So they're incredible prints altogether. So I will, and I love the one, I think you did, it's one where you got heads on spears and stuff like that behind her and all that stuff. That is really, really cool.
I didn't do the editing for that. I did the shot and then sent it to somebody else who does like movie posters to do that. Dark Design PT is their Instagram. They're amazing. But the idea was like, there's a whole thing called like, I'm a zebra warrior, which a zebra is when a doctor's looking for rare disease, which she has multiple rare diseases. You don't look for horse. You look for horse prints, not zebra prints. But I forget the saying. Apologies. But anyone with a rare disease calls themselves a zebra, and they call themselves zebra warriors because they're going through it, doing their thing. And people with EDS call themselves EDS warriors. So the idea was to get a chainmail set, have her look kind of like Red Sonja, and have her look like an actual warrior. And instead of a sword, use her cane. So her cane's in the photo using like a classic kind of Conan pose, holding it like a sword. And that's the EDS warrior set that we did. And it actually ended up on a magazine cover, the cover of Expressions magazine.
Wow. Awesome. Wow. It's a beautiful, all of those shots. I love the lighting and everything. They're all the colors are so complimentary. Everything about the shots, she's beautiful. Everything is just fantastic on those shots. I'm definitely going to be picking up some of that and your book as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we should mention that if you're still trying to raise money for that.
Where do people go for that?
get that?
Store.jeremysaffer.com is where I sell all my prints.
Okay, and
Just
I'll put
my web store.
that in the show notes too, so people have access to it below. Yeah, very cool.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll definitely grab some. Now, so you've done several. So you've done In This Moment videos. You've done a few other videos as well for other bands. Buckcherry. I'm just looking through a bunch of different shots, some behind the scenes and stuff like that. So that's cool. So video something you just not really interested, or you're getting into, or is it just kind of like, if someone asks, sort of thing? What's your stance on video?
It's more so if somebody asks, and if it's like the right kind of thing. Like, I'll shoot In This Moment anytime they want me to do anything. Video wise, I prefer shooting photos. Like, my preference is photo shoots, hands down. But if the video's something I'm interested in, something really cool, I will do it for sure.
Nice. So let's jump over to your book,
Sure.
Daughters of Darkness. Do you want to tell me how that came about and the story behind it?
Sure. So it's kind of a long-winded one, but basically I grew up a black metal nerd. I was all about black metal since I was like 12, 13 years old, when I first found like Cradle of Filth, into Dimmu, into all those other bands. And I really loved their merch, their, the aesthetic of black metal album covers. And a lot of it had to do with like fine art nude photography, which I also do a lot of fine art nude photography. But back then, again, I was a musician at the time, but I would go to my local music store, flip through albums looking for black metal. And it's like, oh, black metal logo, nude woman in the woods covered in blood. This is going to be a good record. Don't know the band, buying it. And most of the time I would love those bands. And then same thing, I would see a merch design of like a Marduk merch design of the F Me Jesus shirt. And I'm like, that band's evil as hell. I need that album. That band's going to be awesome. And Marduk rules, so that is a big foundation of it. Cradle of Filth's artwork, Dimmu's artwork, all that kind of stuff, the Satyricon music videos, all that kind of like the duality of beauty and beast, like beauty and darkness, something that can be very beautiful yet very evil. That's always been kind of a recurring thing in a lot of the things I like, and a lot of the aesthetic I dig in film and music and everything. So I get hired by a t-shirt company to do a t-shirt design of a woman in corpse paint that's nude, and it's what's the name of the band? Pulp. Pulp, This Is Hardcore had a album cover, Pulp, This Is Hardcore, blonde girl, head down, kind of with a red kind of velvety kind of thing. So we did the same thing, but with corpse paint that says, their clothing line, This Is Black Metal. So I did that shot, and the model was a fan of black metal. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. We need to do more of this. And it's a model I shot, fine art nude portraits with before. So we just basically went ham. We shot on a white background, black background, outdoors in, a creepy basement in an industrial area, and shot a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, this is awesome. It brings me back to thinking, like, if this photo was on an album, I would buy that album. So I was like, okay, cool. I really dig this kind of idea of melting like my fine art photography with band photography and doing this with it, combining it. I'm going to probably do a series of like maybe 10 shoots of this. A year later, I was about 50 shoots deep. So it became this project where anytime I wasn't shooting bands, I was shooting this. And, it was usually in the winter or the dead of summer, when it's either festival season or dead season for us New England people, and right. Northeastern people who are like, oh, it's winter, tours are not happening. That's why I always go to LA in the winter. But yeah, so I was shooting it for years and years and years and years. And then eventually I was like, okay, it's time to like get it published and do something with it, rather than it just sitting there on a hard drive, growing. So I start hitting up record labels that put out this kind of stuff and might do a book, and they're like, we'll do an album cover, we'll do a music video, we don't know about a full book, there's too much nudity. Okay, fine. I hit up fine art nude publishers who've published my work before, and they're like, we'll take your regular fine art, but the stuff is too scary, it's going to scare our base, our people won't get it, this is too niche for me. So it basically became a back burner project where I would keep shooting for it. And then the last couple years, I kind of slowed down and stopped shooting as much for it. If there was like a really cool model that I wanted to be a part of it, I'd shoot them. But for the most part, I was kind of like, then I did a photo shoot with a band called NHCONCERTPHOTOGS, where I was shooting their promos and then promos for their YouTube series with John Goblikin, the Goblin person who is their kind of their Ed Hunter, their Ed from Iron Maiden kind of thing.
Yep.
Mascot. There's a word.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. And then they're like, so he's putting out a self-help book. Can you do all the photos? So we did all those photos of him like, like doing all these different things. And I sent it over to the publisher, which is Rarebird. And I mentioned like, hey, you're working with NHCONCERTPHOTOGS, you're working with all these metal bands, you're doing all these books on metal, but they're also doing like Sean Penn's biography and like Bella Thorne's biography and stuff like that. So I hit up the owner. I'm like, hey, so here's this feel. Here's this project I've been working on for 12 years. Here's what it is. Let me know if you're interested and if you would want to do a book on it. And then like, I want to say it wasn't even an hour later. Yeah, let's do it. I got a reply. It wasn't a, let me talk to the board. Let me, have a meeting about this. It was like, yep, let's do it. Then the first meeting I had with him face to face, he's wearing a Satyricon hoodie. So it's just like, all right, I found my publisher.
Yeah.
And we met in LA in February, just before the pandemic hit. We were getting the ball rolling, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I have nothing to do. And he's like, let's do the book now instead of when we planned on doing it, which was kind of further down the line. And I was like, okay, cool. So it actually took much, much longer to put together than I thought, because in 12 years, technology changes so much. So I went back and re-edited every single photo. So I re-edited about 1,200 photos that were to be selects for the book, rather than doing the smart thing and editing the selected photos. Just means we have a lot more. But I was also reaching out to every model in the book, because models who modeled nude 12 years ago might be a teacher now. They might be a parent now. They might want to change their name in the book. That's why there's some anonymous people in the book. There's also some like well-known celebrities who are in the book who are also anonymous because they have the face paint, so you don't know who they are. So yeah, it was a huge process, and it finally came out in October, and it's finally out there, which is the coolest thing ever. It finally exists, and it's so difficult to promote because of its content, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's out, and
yeah, it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful looking book, and you have a couple.
Thank you.
A lot of variations to it, and some music records with it as well, right?
Yeah. One of the coolest things ever. I grew up on black metal compilations. That's how I found out about bands. Like, how many compilations do you remember when you were a kid that you're like, okay, cool, I got this comp because this one band's on it, but these 6 other bands I got to find out about because of like Metal Meister, Death Meister, all these Metal Massacre, all those cool comps where you get to see all those other bands. So I hit up Rarebird. I'm like, hey, so I know you do vinyl. Would it be cool if we did like a vinyl for this, if I could find someone who's willing to let us use the music? So I reached out to Season of Mist, who have a lot of black metal bands, including most of my favorite black metal bands. And it was a lot of back and forth, but eventually they were like, cool, yeah, we'll do it. And I fully expected them to be like, here are our 12 most recent singles, put this on it. This is what we're promoting. They were like, nah, here's the keys to our archive. Pick whatever bands have ever been on our label, any songs you want. So I got to fully curate it. So I got to pick like my favorite Mayhem song, my favorite Abyss song, my favorite Watain song, my favorite 1349 song, my favorite Charik Agrin song. I just got to pick all of my favorite songs, and they did a double 45 RPM vinyl, and it's insane.
That is super cool, man. That is just crazy that you were able to do all that. That's so cool.
Yeah, now, dreams come true, to say the least.
And a lot of times it's just a matter of, reaching out and asking. You just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, too. Cool. Now, explain the difference, because there's a couple different editions of the book.
Mm-hmm.
What can you explain the difference?
So there's the standard edition, which is just the regular book, which you can buy anywhere. They're in every bookstore and Amazon, wherever. That's so boring, but it's not boring. It's awesome, but you can get it with so much cool stuff. If you buy it directly from the publisher, Rarebird, who are an indie publisher and support small business, you get a signed copy that's hand signed, and it comes with all these extras. Like, there's versions that come with prints. There's the Bathory edition, which is a much thicker book. It comes with a slip, and there's a different cover, alternate cover of a girl covered in blood, hence Bathory cover. Different cover, different slip cover. And that I think comes with vinyl, but there's all sorts of different bundles where you can get like t-shirts, vinyl, all sorts of stuff.
Now, is
Then
the
there's
page
Go
numbers
ahead.
different? Is there different page numbers between the two, or the same book content?
the interior between the standard edition and the Bathory edition are the same. The only one that's different is the True Daughters of Darkness box set, which there's only 24 of them. I think there's like maybe 5 left. It comes in a custom made wooden box with the logo burned onto it. It comes with all sorts of stuff, and that has 24 extra pages in it. So there's 24 pages hand sewn into a hand sewn book. Like that book was put together by hand, which is unreal. And it's got those 24 extra pages, an alternate cover, alternate slip, comes in a wooden box case, comes with a velvet throw, comes with candles, comes with all sorts of stuff. And the idea behind that is, you know, you get your Daughters of Darkness box set, you can build a little altar. It comes with a set of corpse paint too. You know, you build your altar, it comes with a custom made wooden, handmade wooden book stand too. So you can put the book on and it'll stay open or closed, however you want to display it, which is awesome. They went all out for it. Comes with a beautiful certificate of authenticity signed by me and the publisher, and you know, the vinyl, of course. The box set is just unreal. And you know, it comes at a premium. It was $666 because of course it is. And but like everyone who bought it was like, oh my God, look at all this stuff it comes with. This is insane. Like, you definitely get you get what you pay for, to say the least.
It's a beautiful looking set, and when I see it, I honestly see, you know, in this moment, I see Maria types. I feel like this is going to be an in this moment sort of setup in the future or something like that. Maybe on the next time they come through, they're like, you know what, that box set looks pretty cool. Let's make an in this moment version.
They should.
That would look. I just perfect combo there. Absolutely.
I'm sure eventually a book will happen from them.
Yeah,
There's no question.
Even a CD book setup type of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It just I just totally see in this moment in that sort of setup as well. But again, that's on the store.jeremysaffer.com.
Nope.
As well.
No, there's a link to it there, but it's on the Rarebird website or daughtersofdarknessbook.com.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Daughtersofdarknessbook.com leads to the website. And actually, I can grab a copy of the book so you can see the size of it. It is safe to show on video. It is censored.
No worries, no worries. Yep.
So this is the standard edition. The Bathory edition I can't show. But in terms of how big it is massive. You know, it is a big book.
That's cool looking. Yeah, I'll be ordering that, the signed one, here in the next couple weeks.
Thank you very much. And then I got really lucky with having Danny Filth involved and having Randy Blythe involved. Randy wrote the introduction. You know, being a photographer, he saw this project when I first started it. And he was the dude to just be like, dude, when's the book coming out? When's the book coming out? Like when there was no book happening. You know, he was always pushing me to keep going with this project. And when it finally came out, I was like, dude, you got to write the intro. You're a photographer. We're friends. You got to do it. And he wrote an amazing intro. And then Danny Filth, who, you know, Cradle of Filth is such a big inspiration behind this project, having him do the foreword was just unreal.
Dude, you couldn't ask for a better combo of guys involved. No way. That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, did you have to, like, with building the book, did you have to like cut down a bunch of photos? Did you have like too many and you had to cut it down, or how did that work? How did you decide that?
So I shot over 400 models for 12 years. So there's roughly like, I forget, like 97,000 images I had to cut down.
Wow.
So what's in the book? And there are 250 images in the book, I believe, exactly. And we lost somebody.
That's right. Keep going.
Yeah. So it was a lot of picking and choosing and going through with the editor who really, not the editor, the owner who owns Rarebird. His name's Tyson. He was really helpful in helping me decide, like, I'm stuck between these two photos. And you know how it is when you go through concert photos and you have those two shots that are very similar. and
Yeah.
you don't know which one you like more because they're so alike, and you're just like, I can't choose, and he was very helpful in helping me like kind of pick which ones went in that. He was just like, look, if it does well, there could be another one. If it does well, we could do a volume 2, and these photos can be used again in the future, which is that kind of like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. So these photos won't like be gone forever. And I actually, like, today I even did a shoot that was a corpse paint shoot. So I'm kind of shooting new content, which may appear in a future edition of that book, of a volume 2 of that book, which, fingers crossed that happens.
Nice. I hope so.
Yeah. And the idea for the next book that I'm working on is actually going to be band photography. So yay.
Awesome, dude. Very cool. With that book, are you drafting out, are you like verbally creating dialogue for that book or what as well? Or is it strictly just photography?
No. My idea behind the band book, and it's not confirmed yet, so it's just kind of an idea right now. It's just kind of like the stories behind the shoot, the things that people don't know about a shoot. Kind of, if you've seen my Instagram recently, I did a lot of BTS of like the setup, the shoot, and the story behind it, where I'll show the lighting setup, I'll show the behind the scenes, and then I'll show the final image, and I'll talk about the photo shoot that day and the story behind, like, okay, like I showed up, this is what happened. But on Instagram, it's like you have this much room to tell that story when the story might be like this long. So when I do that book, I plan on fully going into like, this is what went right, this is what went wrong, this is when someone was too drunk, and this is what happened. Getting into some of the like the good, the bad, and the ugly of my career of 15 years plus now of shooting bands, and trying to stay like, I can't fit all the bands I've shot in there, so I'm gonna have to pick and choose. But like some of the more fun stories.
Yeah. So do you add any for the Daughters of Darkness? Did you have to? Is that strictly just photos, or is that any content in there as well?
So I wrote in kind of a, not an introduction, but kind of like talking about what the book is, how the book started, kind of what I told you, but a little more in depth in there. Then there's Randy's intro, Danny's forward, and then it's all photos, all full bleed, full page. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want any words in there. I wanted to just be photos and nothing else.
Let it speak for itself. Absolutely. Definitely.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks for watching part 1 with our guest, Jeremy Saffer. We hope you enjoyed the episode. You can catch more episodes and other guests on our YouTube channel and on talesfromthepit.net. We'll see you next time.